Her T2I, David Martinez, had spent over a decade as a geological surveyor, mapping rugged terrains from Nevada's deserts to Peru's mountains. After years of saving, I'd purchased this lakefront property 6 months ago, a sanctuary. Built in 1955 by Tom McNeil's grandfather, the cabin's silvery gray cedar, hand-hewn boards, and stone fireplace held a quiet dignity, a testament to craftsmanship. From my wooden dock, where I sipped coffee at dawn, the lake's tranquility felt like a reward for a life of hard work. Willowbrook Estate, surrounding community, was a mix of retirees, families, and weekenders. Neighbors like Bill Thompson, a fly fishing enthusiast, had welcomed me warmly, sharing cider and lake stories. The community seemed idyllic, a place to root myself after years of transience. But peace, I'd soon learn, was fragile when ambition arrived. Margaret Walsh moved into Willowbrook 6 months before I bought my cabin. A 45-year-old former corporate attorney, downsized from a city law firm, she carried an air of authority. Her perfectly styled bob never wavered in the lake's breezes, and her tailored blazers screamed control.
Ow.
Within weeks, she'd seized the presidency of the Willowbrook Estate Homeowners Association, HOA, promising to transform the lake into a resort-quality amenity to boost property values. At a community barbecue, she introduced herself with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "David Martinez, the new guy with the old cabin," she said, her tone probing. She outlined her vision: clubhouses, walking paths, modern amenities, satting. "We'll need everyone to update their properties to meet standards." I nodded, assuming she meant minor fixes. Unaware she'd soon target my home. Trouble began on a Tuesday morning in early spring. A certified letter, stamped with the HOA seal, arrived, its contents chilling. It cited multiple aesthetic violations, threatening community standards. My cabin's natural cedar siding violated a new earth tone paint requirement. My hand-split rail fence was structurally questionable. My gravel driveway caused drainage issues. My dock needed immediate safety repairs. The penalty? $200 per day, doubling weekly unless corrected within 10 days. I spent that evening at my kitchen table, dissecting the HOA covenants. As a surveyor, I approached problems methodically, and what I found was alarming. The original covenants, from the 1990s, grandfathered existing structures like my cabin, but recent amendments, buried in newsletters, introduced restrictive rules post-purchase. Margaret's name appeared on these changes, her legal expertise lending them weight. Contradictions abounded, suggesting a targeted campaign. By midnight, I'd flagged discrepancies, determined to investigate further. Week 2 brought Margaret herself, flanked by 2 board members with clipboards and telephoto cameras. They arrived unannounced, striding across my property like inspectors. Margaret's red blazer clashed with the lake's greens, her pumps sinking into my gravel driveway. They photographed my shingles, stone walkway, kayak rack, even my bird feeders, noting environmental hazards and odors. My cabin, meticulously maintained, smelled only of cedar and lake air. I stepped outside, keeping my tone even. "What's this about, Ms. Walsh?" She adjusted her blazer, smiling. "Tightly, Mr. Martinez. This isn't a campground. We have standards to protect investments, and your structure doesn't comply." She waved at my cabin like it was debris. A board member muttered about property values, snapping photos of my hand-carved door frame. "Show me the regulations," I said, "and give notice before coming onto my land." Her eyes narrowed. "Trespass. You're the one violating standards. We're gathering evidence." She left, her pumps grinding gravel. That night, sleep eluded me. Margaret's confidence unnerved me. She seemed certain of her power. Neighbors' attitudes shifted. Bill stopped waving, and barbecue invites ceased. At the grocery store, I overheard Susan Chen whisper about people who don't compromise. The isolation stung, but it hardened my resolve. By week 3, Margaret went public. It's an email blast to 200 residents, titled "Non-Cooperative Residents and Declining Property Values." Ascribed a shoreline owner obstructing progress, implicitly me. It featured renderings of her clubhouse, my cabin digitally erased, replaced by paths and amenities. She urged residents to support removing obstacles. Neighbors now crossed the street to avoid me, and Bill averted his gaze. The community I'd embraced shunned me. I wasn't helpless, though. My surveyor's tools included a professional drone used for mapping. On a Sunday, I flew it over the lake, capturing high-resolution footage. Partly to document harassment Margaret's visits, the photographers, but also to probe the land. The footage hinted at boundary discrepancies. The HOA's maps didn't match the topography. I decided to request historical county records to confirm my suspicions. Week 4 brought a legal threat. A cease and desist letter from a state capitol attorney, accusing me of unlawfully occupying public waterfront land. It demanded I remove my cabin within 48 hours or face lawsuits and criminal charges, claiming my boundaries were missurveyed, placing my cabin on community land. I called Margaret, requesting survey documentation. "We don't justify our actions to violators," she snapped, hanging up. Her arrogance clarified my path. I requested county records from the 1950s, knowing I could read them better than most. I also installed security cameras around my cabin. Margaret promptly complained to the sheriff, alleging my cameras invaded privacy. Ironic. Given her relentless surveillance of me, by week 4's end, I was weary but resolute. Margaret's siege was intensifying, but my drone footage and records were building a counterattack. I just needed to prove the land was mine. Week 6 changed everything. I was away on a 2-day mineral survey upstate, expecting to return to my cabin's peace. Instead, I pulled into my driveway to find devastation. My cabin's 70 years of history was a pile of splintered wood, twisted metal, and shattered glass. Margaret Walsh stood amid the rubble, directing a bulldozer crew live streaming the demolition. Her red blazer, dusted with sawdust, gleamed as she narrated to thousands online, framing the destruction as removing an illegal structure. Stepped out of my truck, heart pounding. Margaret saw me and smiled, not cruelly, but triumphantly. "You can sue Mr. Martinez," she said, brushing off her sleeve, "but our lawyers are better." "Good. You should have moved that shack when we asked." She posed for photos beside my grandfather's smashed furniture. Her words should have crushed me, but they sparked defiance. Surveying the debris my books, my dock's remnants, I found clarity. "Thank you, Ms. Walsh," I said coldly. "This makes my land survey easier." Her smile wavered, but she resumed her live stream, dismissing me. Over 3 days, I conducted the most precise survey of my career using GPS, ground-penetrating radar, and satellite measurements. Neighbors watched, curious. Patterson, a retired teacher, asked about my equipment. "What do you do, David?" I mentioned my surveying background, sensing her doubt in Margaret's narrative. Margaret, observing from afar, likely thought I was unraveling. She was mistaken. County records arrived, revealing a bombshell. In 1952, the McNeil family bought 47 acres, including Willowbrook Lake's western shoreline, extending 200 feet eastward. My cabin wasn't on public land, it was squarely mine, as was the site of Margaret's $2.3 million clubhouse. The 1990s. Developers had assumed shoreline access without verifying ownership. Every clubhouse footing trespassed on my property. I called Tom McNeil, the 78-year-old former owner. He arrived, furious. "My grandfather built that cabin," he said, trembling. "Every board was handcrafted. She destroyed my family's legacy." Tom's records, including a 1952 county agreement, confirmed my ownership and riparian rights. Hired Sarah Kim, a real estate attorney known for winning land disputes. Reviewing my evidence, she was stunned. "They demolished your cabin illegally and built a clubhouse on your land without permits. This is a legal disaster for them." Sarah uncovered Margaret's violations. Number 30-day notice for emergency. Actions: no community votes for large expenditures, unauthorized contracts, and false claims of land ownership. Margaret's live stream went viral. With 50,000 views and supportive comments praising her leadership, she posted updates calling my cabin illegal, intensifying my isolation. But my evidence, drone footage, cameras, Tom's records, was ironclad. I needed the right moment to strike. I requested an emergency HOA meeting to discuss compensation. And development? "Margaret, Eager to force a settlement? Agreed, unaware I'd invited Sarah, Tom, a county inspector, and a journalist. The stage was set for her downfall. The Willowbrook Estate Community Center buzzed with over 200 residents, plus outsiders drawn by social media buzz. Margaret opened the emergency HOA meeting in her red blazer, radiating confidence. Her multimedia presentation showcased her $2.30 million clubhouse granite countertops, lakeside decks, playgrounds promising higher property values. "This is Willowbrook's future," she declared. She called my cabin an eyesore, framing its demolition as progress. Residents applauded her renderings, contrasting my cedar walls with her gleaming amenities. "Mr. Martinez thought he owned our shoreline," she said indignantly. "We've been patient with those prioritizing personal interests over community welfare." Her slides showed the demolition, carefully spun as necessary. Invited to respond, I connected my laptop to the projector. "Thank you, Ms. Walsh. I have materials to share." My first slide displayed the 1952 county survey. My 47-acre property in red, encompassing the cabin and clubhouse site, murmurs spread. "This shows my legal boundaries," I said, tracing the lines. "My land includes the clubhouse construction area." Margaret's composure cracked. I presented evidence: the certified deed, GPS data, purchase agreement, and inspector emails confirming no permits. "The cabin was on my land," I said, showing the clubhouse overlaid with my boundaries. "The clubhouse is on my property, built without permission." The room erupted. Margaret claimed fabrication, but Sarah Kim stood. "Every document is verified by county and state authorities." The inspector confirmed the HOA's violations: unpermitted demolition, unauthorized construction, and environmental breaches. Tom McNeil rose. "I sold that land to David. My family owned it since 1952. That cabin was my grandfather's work." Words silenced the crowd. Margaret's attorney whispered, "We're facing millions in liability." Residents demanded answers. Why no ownership verification? How much was spent? Who'd pay for a potential demolition? An elderly woman stood, furious. "We were told the clubhouse was on community land. We're trespassing." The mood turned. Hostile board members distanced themselves, blaming Margaret's research. A no-confidence vote passed, 187 to 13, ousting her. I proposed solutions: compensation for my cabin, halting construction, and Margaret's resignation. She resigned, her blazer wrinkled, her authority gone. Over 30 days she faced ruin, sued for $150,000 in damages. The county fined the HOA $50,000. Residents filed a class action against Margaret for unauthorized actions. She sold her home at a loss, relocated, and faced a bar investigation, ending her legal career. With the new HOA board, I redesigned the development. The clubhouse moved to community land, smaller but legal. I granted an easement for a walking path, keeping my shoreline private. I built a modern lodge-style home, honoring the cabin's spirit with lake views and a wraparound deck. A year later, Willowbrook thrived. As HOA president, I reformed bylaws for transparency. My home stood resilient, and Tom visited his legacy. Preserved. The story became a property law case study, a warning against unchecked power. Margaret, I heard, now researched boundaries, a lesson learned too late? On my dock at sunset, watching families enjoy our shared spaces, I knew justice had prevailed through patience and truth.